Today we're going to be making a simple coffee table out of 3 pieces of pre-finished pine that I picked up at the hardware store. Also, there are going to be build plans for this table just in case you want to follow along. I'm going to put the link in the video description so you can go ahead and cop those. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So these are 3 pieces that we picked up, and we are going to be using just 2 of them for now. I dropped one, so I actually have to go to the store and buy another, but we're going to grab these 2 pieces of rounded pine and we're going to put them on top of each other so that we can cut them at the same exact time. And we're going to mark exactly where we want to cut and then use a straight edge so that we can have a nice reference line. Once we mark that, we're going to be using our circular saw, and we're just going to be cutting slowly. Even if we're off, it doesn't matter because we're cutting both pieces at the same time. Now, there is a lot of sawdust in the air, so we're going to go ahead and clean that up. But if you do have like a track saw, I recommend that. I just want to use a circular saw to show you that you can use that as well. So now we're going to be marking for the other side. And then once we have that mark, we're going to repeat that process. So we're going to mark it with a straight edge, and then we're going to cut that as well. But before that, we want to make sure we clamp these 2 pieces together so that we don't accidentally move them. If we're going to be off, at least we're going to be off together. And then we're going to put that now on the other side. And then we're going to cut the other side as soon as we clamp down to make sure that our piece doesn't move and we have our nice straight. And then with a circular saw, we're going to be cutting again. So now that we have both pieces cut, you could see here that they look like they are identical or as close as possible. And then we're going to be moving one of them to the side while we cut the other one in half. So now we're going to be looking for the center of both the top and the bottom, and we're going to mark our line down the middle. And then we're going to elevate the piece on the table because we want to cut through it. And because it's such an awkward shaped piece, we don't really want to have to clamp it down like that. But this is perfect now. We can cut it and we don't have to worry about the saw blade going through our workbench. And so now we have a cut, but these pieces are not identical. One piece is actually bigger than the other. So we're going to be making a jig so that we can use the curved parts of the parts as a reference so that we can cut them and match them like we did the first time. So here you'll see what I mean. We take the rounded edge on both parts, and then we're going to move it against the jig. And then you could see there in the bottom how the bottom piece is just slightly further down to the left than the other. But now after we cut it, now both parts are exactly 100% the same, which is what we want. Our base is going to have one full piece, and that's going to be these 2 half pieces. So it's going to be 3 pieces in total for the base. So here you have that full piece for the base, and now you could see how we put the other 2 pieces to the side of it. Okay, now that we have that, the perfect thing to do is we're going to mark our whole base and we're going to drill our holes for our dowels. But right now we want to see exactly where those dowels are going to go. So we're going to have 6 holes in total. And then we're going to go ahead and use a punch so that our drill bit doesn't walk on us. Now, I like a 2-part method. I like to drill with a small drill bit and then move over to the actual size drill bit. Again, this reduces the chance of the drill bit walking on us. And then we're going to clean it away because I like to keep a clean workspace. Here you see those 6 holes in total. 3 are for one side of the base and then 3 are for the other side of the base. And then we're going to be using these dowel pin locators. Now, these are great. You can put them in the dowel pin holes. And then what you can do is take another piece of wood and press into it, and then it shows you exactly where it is. So you'll see how we use this right now when we use it on the other part of the base. So we're going to mark in the middle right here for one of the pieces that we've already cut. Then we're going to take that piece, and we have the dowel pin locators already in there, and we're going to press it. And that's going to show you exactly where you need to mark your hole, and then you can drill into it. So now that we've pressed it into it, we can now see exactly where those 2 pinholes are going to be. And so we're going to do it for the other side of the base as well. So we're going to move everything from 2 over to 1. And then we're going to repeat that process on the other side so that we can mark the other side for where the dowel pins are going to go. And then now that we know that, we can now use our drill guide in order to drill our 3 holes on either side of the base. So now that we have those 3 holes drilled, we can go ahead and put some dowels in there and do a test fit. Okay, now that we have all of that done, we're going to go ahead and mark and sand our base, all 3 pieces, so that it's nice and smooth to 120 grit. And then we're going to be putting some glue on our dowels and putting our dowels in our base. Once that's dry, we're going to go ahead and put some more glue on the dowel base, and then we're going to stick that into the main base. Right now you can see me struggle with this, but once you push it in, it goes nice and as flush as possible. We're going to be using some caulking later in order to close up those seams, so I'm not too worried about the little gaps that we have. And in order to hold this in place so that it could dry, this is a little extra, but we're going to be using a strap clamp so that we can let it sit overnight. Then we're going to check for square just to make sure we're okay before we leave. Alright guys, so yesterday we put the base together and we left it overnight to dry. Today we're going to be taking it out of the clamp, then we're going to go ahead and paint the base. Then we're also going to stain the tabletop, put them both together, and then call this project done. So let's go ahead and keep going on. I'm not going to lie, I didn't know what to expect when I took it out of the clamp, but everything looks okay so far. Yeah, that's not bad. Not bad at all. Now we're going to grab our newly purchased top and we're going to go ahead and put it on the base just to see if it fits okay. And this is more of a check to make sure that we're on the right track, and it looks like we are. So now we're going to be marking for the holes for our tabletop as well as the holes for our leveling feet. One of the things I do recommend for this is a center dowel jig. I don't have one of those, so I'm just going to be using this 3/8 dowel jig that I got from Rockler, which means that with this 1 inch almost wood, it's going to be slightly off, but I'll compensate for that when I go ahead and put the tabletop on. And then we're going to be countersinking the holes as well. That way when we go to put in the threaded inserts, it doesn't break or chip any of the wood that we have there. And then here's the caulking that I talked about earlier so that we can go ahead and close up those seams. And then what I like to do is put water on my finger and then run that up to get rid of the excess caulking and then let it dry for the manufacturer's recommended times. Okay, while that's drying, we're going to go ahead and take the tabletop and we're going to water pop it so that we could raise the grain, and then we're going to sand it off camera. And then these are the 3 finishes that we're going to be using. We're going to be using some leftover black paint. We're going to be using some wood stain that I picked up and pop it all off with some polyurethane as a top coat. So here we are. We're going to be using that brown stain in order to give some more characteristic to this tabletop. And this step is completely optional. You can choose whatever finish you'd like. And then we're going to be using the black paint that we had left over for the base. And then here's where the countersink comes in handy, because now we're going to be putting in our threaded inserts. And when we get to the bottom, we don't have to worry about the wood chipping. And then we're going to put in our leveling feet. And then we're going to be using these dowel pin locators again, the same way we did for the base. We're going to use it to connect the base to the tabletop. We're going to be using a small drill bit, and then we're going to be using our 3/8 drill bit for our dowel pins for the tabletop. And then we're going to use the countersink again, just in order to make sure that our dowel pins go in easily. Now that we have our first dowel pin in our tabletop, we're going to put the tabletop in the base, and then we're going to adjust it until the tabletop is center on the base. Then we're going to put our dowel pin locator in so that we can drill our second hole. Now you can see here we have our 2 dowel pins, and once we put that in, we can put our 2 dowel pin locators in and drill all 4 of our holes, which we did here, and we could put in our wood glue and our dowels. And then put all 4 of those pieces in our base. I've already checked all of the dowel pins are equal distance away from the base, so the entire tabletop sits center. All right guys, there you have it. There's the simple coffee table. It's not too hard to put together, and as I mentioned before, we do have build plans for it, so go ahead and cop those. As always, let me know down in the comments what you liked and didn't like, or what you would like to see on a future video. I'm Neil, and I'll see you guys the next time I decide to hit the upload button. Peace.